Welcome to our mindfulness series, Caring for the Present Moment. Today we'll talk about caring for happiness in the present moment. If I could connect with each one of you, that would be a great, great happiness for me. But as that's not possible, I will look at this picture of our 2-year-old granddaughter, Jane Maple, who is the greatest source of happiness for me right now in my life. The present moment. In Plum Village, we often practice the mindfulness verse. I have arrived, I am home, in the here and in the now. The here and now is our true home. It's both outside and inside us. Caring for the present moment begins with being aware of what's going on inside of us as well as outside of us. Let's arrive here and now by closing our eyes for a minute and turning our attention inward when we hear the sound of the bell. What thoughts do you observe? What feelings? Just observe. If you find yourself judging what you see, then observe your judging. Observe whatever is happening. Please open your eyes slowly. When our eyes were closed, some of us may have observed negative thoughts or feelings. That's quite common these days. We may have noticed thoughts about a mistake we've made or feelings of anxiety about our health in the future. We would like to rectify that mistake. We'd like to find ways to reduce our anxiety about our health. And that is natural. But just accepting what is true in this present moment can lead to deeper understanding and even insight, and can make room for more happiness. We'll learn about caring for our suffering in session 2. Today, we can acknowledge our suffering and promise it that we'll be back soon to care for it. You may not have noticed, but this moment also holds many sources of happiness. The songs of birds, the blue sky, flowers, loved ones, near and far, and our amazing bodies. we'll turn our attention now to our bodies with Kaira Jewel.
So it's really good to be here with you all. And I have the joy of offering you one of my favorite practices of connecting with our body and inviting our body to rest. And if you show up at a Plum Village retreat center in Europe or in the US for a retreat of a week or a weekend, often the first thing you get to do when you arrive at the retreat center is to go into the meditation hall and lie down, and a monk or a nun or a lay friend will lead you in relaxing every part of your body. So much like a retreat in one of our centers, we're going to begin our course together with taking good care of our bodies. And I want to say a little more about this before we go into the practice itself, because we teach who we are as educators. It's our nervous system that our students are relying on to find their own sense of calm and safety. So if we're calm and peaceful, still, relaxed, it's contagious, and our students have a chance to receive that. So in this practice, we'll spend time connecting with different parts of the body and inviting them to rest. Sometimes the tension that's accumulated in our body, it only needs our awareness, and then it releases. As soon as we bring attention to it, it lets go. But other times, the tension in our body is not ready to go. And in this case, as we move through the body in this practice, we accept that the tension is there, and we breathe with it in and out mindfully, not fighting or resisting it or making it anything wrong. So we just notice and we allow whatever is here in the body. The practice is to get to know our body and to make friends with it. We want to be a good friend to our body. So as we're going through the different areas, if you notice that your mind has wandered off, simply bring your attention back to whichever part of the body we're attending to at that moment. So you are welcome to do this practice seated, but hopefully you also got our message to have a yoga mat or something you could lie down on. It's most enjoyable to do this practice lying down. So I'll give you a moment to find the best position for you. You can also move with mindfulness, with awareness of your body as you find a good position. And I'm just going to assume that you all are hearing me without any difficulty. You will let me know if there's any problem with the sound. So let's begin. First, feel your body as it's lying on or sitting on whatever surface you've chosen. Especially feeling the points of contact between your feet, maybe your heels, and the floor. And also your legs, the back of your legs, and the ground, the earth. And feel the contact between your buttocks and the earth, and your back, and your arms, and the back of your head. And you can breathe in and notice these places of contact. And as you breathe out, allow your body to give its weight to the earth and melt and soften a little bit more into the earth. So really let the earth take your weight. And let yourself be fully supported and held by the earth. Right, in this moment, there's nowhere to go, there's nothing to do. So you can allow your body to release all of its weight onto the support of the earth. Sinking, spreading into the earth, or melting like butter. If you like, you can take a deep breath. And for me, it helps me to release tension if I let myself sigh when I exhale. So try that again, a deep breath, and then just let yourself sigh as you exhale. Good, and then you can breathe normally. Now I invite you to be aware of your forehead. This is an area that can easily become full of our worry or anxiety when we try to figure things out. So breathing into the forehead and breathing out, inviting the forehead to soften over your skull, to release the tightness, whatever holding might be there. A kind of spreading and opening in the forehead. If that wants to happen. bringing awareness to your eyes as you inhale, and as you exhale, letting your eyes roll back and just rest in the back of the eye sockets, as if they're resting back on pillows behind your eyes. There's nothing externally that you need to focus on. Now your eyes have the opportunity to let go and to rest. Now bringing awareness to the mouth, letting there be some space between the upper and lower rows of teeth so that your lower jaw can be released. To breathe into your jaw and breathe out. Let your jaw hang and let go of tension. Let the tongue rest on the floor of the mouth. Now just letting the whole head, the whole neck, release its weight more and more onto the support of the earth. Getting heavier, more relaxed. Bringing awareness to your shoulders as you inhale, and as you exhale, letting your shoulders sink down your back with a little more space coming between your shoulders and your ears, just naturally. Recognizing how much responsibility and worry and tension your shoulders can carry. And in this moment, relieving them of any work and letting them completely rest. There's nothing they have to take care of right now. Breathing into the shoulders, breathing out, letting the shoulders release completely on the earth. Melting, spreading. Now breathing, feeling your arms and your hands. And breathing out, letting your arms and hands just rest on the earth. Whatever they're touching, let them get a little heavier, more still. Releasing tension down the arms, down the hands. Just feeling the hands, the arms, maybe even noticing the pulsing of blood at your wrists as you become more still. Giving your arms and hands all the permission to rest, to let go of tension or strain. Now is time just for them to be taken care of, to be nourished. Now bring awareness to your back. As you inhale, feel the contact your back is making with whatever you're lying on. As you exhale, let your back release tension, release holding, just flowing from your back down into the earth. The earth will help hold whatever it is that we can't hold. Letting the earth support your back. You don't have to do this all by yourself. You can let the earth hold you and take care of you. Now feeling your belly, noticing how the belly rises as you inhale and falls as you exhale. Just feeling that wave-like motion in the belly, maybe also in the chest. Just feel the movement of the breath in your abdomen. Allowing the abdomen to fully rest. Releasing, holding, or tightness or tension from your belly. Now becoming aware of your legs and your feet as you inhale and as you exhale, letting the weight of your legs and feet completely release onto the support of the earth. Feeling the legs and the feet and releasing tension and strain as the legs and feet become heavier and melt into the ground. Now being aware of your whole body as you breathe in, and as you breathe out, releasing the weight of your whole body onto the support of the earth. Letting all the tension in the body, whatever might be left, letting it flow out into the earth. The earth will help us to hold and transform this tension. We don't have to do it alone. Releasing grateful for the life that's circulating in your body, in every cell of your body. As you let your body rest here, just resting. Touching into the preciousness of having a body, of getting to be alive in a body, and offering your body much care and kindness for all that it does. Countless special wisdoms that it has to make things function, to help the body heal, to help it grow. Just appreciating the wonder of your body. Happiness is here and now. I have dropped my worry. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. No longer in a hurry. Happiness is here and now. I have dropped my worries. Somewhere to go, something to do. But I don't need to hurry. So we'll listen to a sound of a bell to close our practice. And as you listen to this bell, just stay present with your in-breath and out-breath, with the feeling of your body, just resting here. Very good, everyone. Thank you for your practice. You can take your time and slowly, mindfully make your way back to a seated position so we can continue with our exploration together. And in the next part of the class tonight, we're going to speak about how we can nourish our happiness by first sharing with you some way of understanding how our minds work so that we can understand how to help nourish what's beautiful and wholesome in us. So just to say, if you fell asleep in the practice, don't worry. You still benefit. Your consciousness still receives the messages, the teachings. So I'm going to share an image with you to explain this model that I'd like to share with you of two parts of the mind. So hopefully you can see this. Oops. So here is a model of two levels of our consciousness. The upper level is called mind consciousness. The lower level is called store consciousness. You could also think of it as like a basement in the bottom and the living room of a house in the top. And down in store consciousness, part of why it's called store consciousness is because it stores many seeds, which are the potentialities of our mind states, of our mental experiences. So there are seeds of mindfulness there. There's a seed of joy, of peace, fear, anger, jealousy, compassion. And when any of those seeds is watered, the seed sprouts up into the mind and it becomes the actual emotion. So if joy is watered, then it rises up and we feel joyful in our minds. So this is important because, of course, when a seed arises in our mind that's wholesome, it nourishes us. It brings us wonderful feelings, not only in our mind, but in our body, because our mind and body are connected. So when a wholesome seed arises in our mind, we can feel relaxation, we can feel ease, we can have, oxytocin and the healing hormones circulating through our body, allowing for repair of tissues, allowing for reversing of aging. So many things can happen positively in our body and mind. So one thing I'll say too is that there are according to Buddhist psychology, 51 different kinds of seeds down in store consciousness. So we named already a few. Some are wholesome, some are unwholesome. Some are also known as indeterminate, which means it depends on the situation whether their effect is wholesome or not. But we can call up a wholesome seed at any time, even in a difficult moment when we're suffering a lot. The seed is always there, the seed of gratitude, the seed of generosity. Even if we feel, very overwhelmed or irritated, we can shift our attention and bring up a seed that nourishes us. And I know many teachers that practice this in their classrooms or with their students or with their families. They notice irritation rising as students are, engaging in some behavior that they find difficult. And they're able to notice their irritation and to breathe and say, oh, I'm getting irritated. And then they try to bring up a wholesome seed, like, oh, I really want to share this lesson with my students that I think they will enjoy. They get in touch with their happiness, their excitement for what they want to share. And that helps to handle a little bit better the irritation. So maybe they don't yell at a child, but they might say, oh, I know you're acting in this way, but we have this wonderful lesson that we get to do today. Let me show you what we're going to do. So it's always possible to bring up a wholesome seed. This is important because we can influence the way the seeds are in the depth of our mind by how we treat them when they come up into our mind in the upper level. So if it's a wholesome seed and we bring our awareness to it, we're mindful of it when it arises, then it gets stronger at the base. That seed of, if we bring up mindfulness, if we bring up generosity, and we are aware, oh, this is a moment of mindfulness, then we take care to really enjoy it, to make it grow, to let it stay there in our mind. And then it grows bigger in the depths of our mind as a seed. So if we are practicing mindfulness for 5 minutes, the seed of mindfulness down in store consciousness has gotten 5 minutes of food. And it's the same with our unwholesome seeds. If fear comes up and we don't notice that it's there, we don't have mindfulness, it just takes over the living room, and we think fearful thoughts, and we allow fear to run us for 5 or 10 minutes, then the seed of fear has gotten 5 or 10 minutes of food. And so it gets bigger, plumper. So the next time something scary happens, that seed of fear comes up faster, it stays longer, and it's more intense. So it's like in neuroscience, they talk about neural pathways. When you do something, you're training yourself, then your neurons fire together, and then they start to wire together to make a neural pathway. Like just as if you'd walk through the grass and make a pathway over time, it's very easy to take that path because you've trodden down the grass. So we do the same thing. Whatever we're practicing in our daily life, that's what we're making stronger. So we can either nourish wholesome seeds or we can nourish unwholesome seeds. And as educators, it's very important that we learn every day to nourish wholesome seeds and to take care of our unwholesome seeds, our seeds of suffering. And we'll talk more about that in the next session. But I'd like to share a little more about how we do this. So, our wholesome seeds grow when they're in the presence of mindfulness. They grow stronger. And if the unwholesome seeds come up and there is no mindfulness, then they grow stronger also. So mindfulness is key. So Richard and I had the chance to teach several retreats for teachers, educators together, one several times in Germany at the European Institute of Applied Buddhism. And one of the teachers that came there was from Germany, and she learned this model of how the mind works. And she took it back and taught it to her 6-year-old students in first grade. And she came back and she shared with us the drawings that they made of the upper and lower levels of the mind. I'll share them with you. So in this drawing, the student has so she gave them this form, and they had to choose which wholesome seed did they want to water. So first they made a list of all the wholesome seeds they could think of that were in their mind. And then they had a mindfulness notebook. This was in their mindfulness notebook. And then they were to choose which wholesome seed they wanted to water for 1 week. So then you see here there's a seed, and it's in German. So they wanted to water their seed of helping, which is helfen, and their other seed was glücklich, happy. So you see the watering can is watering that seed. And then they could draw the flower, and then in each petal of the flower, they could write down what happened when they nourished that seed. So when they watered the seed of helping, this child wrote that they felt peaceful, Frieden, Freude, happiness. So they were learning about cause and effect. When I water this seed in me, I feel happy. I feel peaceful. So this is another student who wanted to water the seed of concentration and happiness. So they have their watering can, and they're nourishing their seeds in this. So she tells a story that when she explained how this worked to the kids, she could really use it in her class. So at one point, a boy was going around, was helping another student. And she asked him, "What seed are you watering right now?" And he said, "I'm watering my seed of helpfulness." And she said, "How does it make you feel?" And he said, "Really good." So he spent the rest of the class going around helping students, which the teacher said that wasn't his strong point. That wasn't what he usually did. But he realized how it made him feel good. So he continued to try to help. So it became a vocabulary that she shared with the students so they could pay attention and purposely water the wholesome seeds in them. So I'll share with you a list that I find really helpful. This is a teaching from the Buddha about how to practice with these different seeds in our mind. So these are 4 practices of wise diligence or right effort. The first is to bring up the wholesome seeds. If they're not there in the mind, we want to bring them up. So if we know that we love yoga or cooking or playing a sport or listening to music, if that waters a wholesome seed in us, if that seed isn't manifesting, we can do something to call it up. So we should actually make a list of all the things we know that can bring us happiness and put them up on our wall, and we do at least one every day. At least one of those things that brings up the wholesome seeds. The second practice is that when a wholesome seed has arisen in our mind, we keep it as long as possible up in our mind. Because that's the way to make it grow stronger at the root, so that it's more likely to arise in the future. Then the third practice is we try not to allow unwholesome seeds to be watered and to come up, because they cause suffering. But when they do, because they always do, that's what it means to be human. When unwholesome seeds do arise, we take care of them so that they will return to the basement, the store consciousness, as soon as possible. So, whoops, stop share. So, this is something we can all do, these 4 practices of wise diligence. And they're not only practices we do for ourselves, but there are things we can do with our loved ones. So we can look and see how can we water wholesome seeds in those we care about, in our students. How can we avoid watering the seeds of suffering? And I'll end with a list that comes from science research on 5 things that if we do them every day, they are proven to bring us happiness, more happiness, and deeper happiness. And the first one is that if we meditate, if we pray, then that has a big effect on our well-being. Here's the list. So I call them the 5 happinesses. So we meditate or we pray every day. We exercise every day. We can be aware of 3 things that we're grateful for. As soon as we are aware of our gratitude, that already shifts our internal state. I've had this experience many times where I was in a bad mood and I just began to think of what I was grateful for, and already I felt more space inside. I felt more flexibility in my mind. Even if I hadn't resolved my problem, I already had more of a sense of hopefulness about what I was encountering. The 4th is to do a random act of kindness. It's shown that when people practice kind acts with no expectation of something coming back in return, there is immediately there are the hormones that make us feel good, serotonin, oxytocin, they circulate through the body, and not only in the person that we do the kind act for, but in ourself. And not only that, but in anyone who witnesses our kind act, they experience this, release of oxytocin. So we can influence a lot of people in these acts of kindness. And then the last one we can do every day is to journal a happy moment. So when we journal something that happened during the day, when we write about it at the end of the day, it's like we relive it, we bring it up again, and the same joyful feelings that flowed through our body in that actual moment in the day, they circulate again when we write about it. So it's a way to bring up the seed and keep it longer, which is one of the practices of right diligence, the second practice. When a wholesome seed is there, keep it as long as you can. So those are some reflections for you on how we might train our minds toward what's wholesome and heal our mind so that it's more balanced, more capable of encountering the difficulties, because there's a robust, positive, wholesome collection of seeds down in the store. So we'll listen to a bell and Richard will continue.
Hello, friends. Now that we know or have revisited how the mind works, we're going to have a chance to water some positive seeds. The setting for this is a class that I taught for many years for the ninth graders, the 14-year-olds in the high school where I taught. This was a special class. It was not part of my mathematics class. It was a class on stress reduction. We began this class by conducting an experiment where the students did what you did at the beginning. They closed their eyes and they just watched what was happening in their minds, in the living room, what was going on in their awareness. And they did that for 5 minutes. And in that 5-minute time period, almost every student got in touch with some anxiety about the future, a test, a paper, a friendship, and sometimes also things that had already happened that they were troubled with. And lots of different feelings, lots of different thoughts. There were, of course, positive ones too. So I went on to give them a model of the mind. It's not the traditional one that Kaira shared with you. The mind is like a cable television set. It has many channels. It has the joy channel, and the anger channel, the jealousy channel, and the peace channel, and so forth. I didn't tell them that there were 51 channels. But what I did say was that if they paid attention to what was going on in their minds, what their cable TV set was tuned to throughout the day, they would find that there were certain channels that were predominating, and that was true for everyone. And they probably knew people who were angry a great deal of their time, and they hopefully knew some people who were happy and loving and peaceful most of the time. So I said, these are the default channels, and all of us have default channels, the channels that our mind go to when we're not occupied with something else. And this is exactly the same teaching that Kaira just gave us. The point was that if they noticed that their minds were often on negative default channels, they could change the channel. And that's what we're going to do very shortly. We're going to do a guided meditation on where we water different positive seeds. This particular meditation comes from Plum Village. But many teachers work with their students to develop a list of positive seeds that they want to water, like that teacher from Germany that Kaira shared. And so I think without further ado, we'll do some watering in our garden. So if you will just sit back in a comfortable position, a position where you can stay attentive to what is in your mind consciousness, or what channel you are tuned to. This is a 5-part meditation. In each part, I will give you 2 sentences. For example, breathing in, I see myself as a flower. Breathing out, I feel my freshness. Then I'll give you summary words. Flower, fresh. So during this part of the meditation, as you breathe in, you might say the word flower to yourself and feel that part of you that is the flower that you are. It may not be a strong channel, but by simply tuning into that flower part of you, you are strengthening it. If you have trouble getting in touch with the flower in you, then visualize a flower outside of you, a beautiful flower. As you breathe out, tune to the channel of freshness and feel that freshness, however strong it might be, it is there in you to feel. And continue doing that until the sound of a bell. And then we'll move on to the next part of that meditation. So, being relaxed. Bring your mind to your breath and feeling your chest moving in and out, or your breath moving in and out of your nostrils. And with this breath, we'll begin. Breathing in, I'm aware that I am breathing in. Breathing out, I'm aware I'm breathing out. In, out. Breathing in, I'm aware of the flower in me. Breathing out, I feel my freshness. Breathing in, I feel the mountain in me. Breathing out, I feel solid. Mountain, solid. Breathing in, I feel that I am still water, a mountain lake. Breathing out, I reflect everything just as it is. Water, reflecting. Breathing in, I feel myself as space. Breathing out, I feel free. Space, free. Dear friends, keeping our eyes closed, let's now turn our gaze inward and just observe what is true for us in this present moment. What thoughts are there? What feelings are we experiencing? Hold on just a minute. Okay, so we're going to move forward to a very important practice in my teaching. My last 2 years of teaching high school math, I began every class with 5 minutes of contemplative practice. When the students were tired, we did a stretching practice, kind of a yoga practice that brought the energy up into from the earth into their higher parts to help wake up. When they were going to take an examination, we would do a meditation to water their seeds, their positive seeds of confidence, but only after we looked and saw what was actually true in that moment. We did not want to deny the anxiety that they might have felt, but we wanted them to know that they were more than that anxiety. So we did a positive meditation on bringing up the positive seeds, inviting the negative ones down. But the most common practice that we did during that opening time was a practice of keeping a journal, of writing. And so every student had a journal, which I gave them. And probably 3 out of every 5 days, we all wrote in our journals. And sometimes we wrote, usually on Fridays, we just wrote whatever was in our mind. And we wrote nonstop. All of us did that. And the idea was to let out whatever was there to help us become more present to what was about to come. But if we had a lot going on in our minds, it would be pretty hard for us to just turn to math. And so there was an opportunity with this free writing to just spill everything out into our journal. And there was an understanding that we had that I would never read what they wrote in their journals. So it was truly free. Even so, some of the students found that they were writing in order to please me as a teacher because they were indoctrinated to always write for the teacher. And they did not know what it meant to write for themselves. So it took some of them some time to begin writing truly free. More often, I would give them some kind of prompt. It could be a story, or it could be a poem. It could be several different quotations about the same topic. And they would spend 5 minutes just writing whatever came into their mind. They might think about where they went in their mind as they were doing this reading. They might have noticed a particular phrase or section of the reading that was very moving to them. They might have been thinking about experiences that came up as they read. And they might have noticed some emotional responses to the reading. Whatever they wanted to write about it was fine. It was for them. And so we're all going to have a short reading, and have about 10 minutes to be with it. This is a very important reading for me. In 1984, I was on sabbatical at a Quaker center called Pendle Hill outside of Philadelphia. And other students asked the community if we could have a day of silence. And the community agreed to do that. And during the evening meal, one of the organizers read this story to all of us as we were eating in silence. And that was the first time I heard of Thich Nhat Hanh. Subsequently, I bought the book and I brought it to school and I read it to my math students, and they all understood why it was important for them in their own lives. So this story is really a good introduction to eating meditation, which we will experience next week. Not next week, the next session. So, Kaira Jewel, if you could, some of you already have this story printed out. If you could take that out, and Kaira Jewel will give you a version on your screen. It's not seeing the bottom of it on my screen. Maybe you can move it up a little bit. Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Okay, so just take some time to just be with this story. And you might read it several times. Maybe you're familiar with it. Just let it sink in. No need to write anything. But as time goes on and you feel moved, pick up a pen or pencil and a piece of paper and just write whatever is coming up in your heart, in your mind, in response to this reading. I promise I won't read what you say, what you write down. If we're still writing, let's take a couple of more minutes to put down whatever might be wanting to come out. So, dear friends, please stop writing for the time being. I'll just finish this segment by saying that those last 2 years of teaching math, we began the very first day of class with eating meditation. I gave all the students 2 raisins each, and we ate them very slowly in mindfulness, really appreciating what we were eating. And then I explained that homework, working on mathematics problems, could also be a meditation, and that we could digest those math problems in the same way we were digesting the raisins, slowly and with deep appreciation, and getting the full nourishment from them. And the students really remembered this passage and that experience. And they told me about that. So what I'm sharing with you is important for us as teachers to be practicing before we share these practices with students. They will see that these practices come from people who have been using them for a while, because I changed a lot as a result of my practice, and I know many of you have been practicing for quite a while. But some of you who are new, don't be in a hurry to share what you're learning with your students. Take it easy, enjoy the practices, and you will know when it's right to begin sharing them with young people. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me turn it over to Kaira Jewel now to conclude.
Thank you, Richard. So we want to let you know that at the end of each session, we'll invite you to do a practice as your home practice. And for this session, the practice of deep relaxation is something we'd love for you to try guiding your partner. So your partner that you've chosen for this 4-session series. So you'll get the text in your own language, this deep relaxation text. And this, you could do it for a group of friends, you could do it just for one person. You could do it over Zoom if it's not possible to gather, and respect the physical distancing or for whatever reason. So, as Richard mentioned, we're wanting to grow our skills for sharing these practices in this series. So each class, you'll have something you can try and share with others. It's often said that when we teach something, we learn it the best. So by teaching it, sharing it with others, it will go in even deeper. And as we read about tangerine meditation and journaled about it today, in the following session in 2 weeks, we'll begin with actual eating meditation. So we're looking forward to being together with you again in a few weeks.